Hello to my Griffin artists. It's Mrs. Hugh here. Thumbs up for another art lesson. Today we get to paint with our awesome new watercolors. Before we get started on anything, I want to talk about your art supplies. So if you don't have them, pause the video and go and get the art supplies that you brought home from school on Thursday. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about them. So this year, I'm so excited. Yes, I get excited about paints and art supplies. We have these beautiful watercolors that Mater Dei bought for you. And I want you to take very, very good care of these paints. It was a nice thing that Mater Dei did for our students, and to be nice in return, we're going to take good care of these paints. These paints should last us this entire year, and hopefully we'll be able to pass them on to another student next year. And the reason why we have these nicer paints is because you are such a great artist, and the things that you make are so creative and so wonderful, and your parents and your family, they just treasure your creations. And with these paints, you're able to make really beautiful, vibrant colors, which is what we're going to do today. And your artwork will last for many, many years with these beautiful colors. So the things that you make and create are keepsakes to your family. They love them so much. And these paints are special, just like you are, and they're high quality, just like you. But in these paint sets, I mean, you can just tell, look how pretty it is. And it's got this handy dandy little case, and on both sides, you can see that it has these little plastic rubber little tabs, and you open up your paints that way, and you take it off the top. And inside is this really nice paintbrush, and you can see they even have a place for the artist to hold their fingers, and it is pointy. When you use this paintbrush, you don't press it down like that really hard and go around in a circle like that. If you've ever seen a ballerina dance, she dances on her tippy toes. And that's what you want to do with this paintbrush. We want to take good care of it and treat it very nicely and gently. This came in your paints. Ignore this for now, this little tiny, almost toothpaste looking thing. It's not toothpaste, it is for painting, but we're not going to use that today, so just please put that back. This looks really cool. It's almost like a train track. That's because these can come out, but I'm going to ask you not to take them out, because if we take them out, the likelihood that they break or that we lose them or that our dog comes up and thinks it's a candy is greater. So let's leave these in the case unless I give you other instructions in another video to take them out. So you have these beautiful watercolors that you're borrowing from the school that I sent home with you. And I also sent home with you a paintbrush that looks like this. It has a different type of brush on it. And if you turn it to the side, it's very, very thin. And if you turn it this way, it's going to paint like what we have here, these longer dabs. This paintbrush has a finer tip to it. This one has a thicker tip, and we're going to use that today because that's the kind of art that we're going to create. Okay, let me start with our neat lesson plan. I learned about a fantastic artist that I want to teach you about, and her name was Alma Woodsy Thomas. And here is a picture of her. And she was an abstract artist. What is abstract art? Well, let me show you. This is a painting by Alma Woodsy Thomas. It's an abstract painting, but you can tell what it is, can't you? It's a mountaintop, right? Here's a painting that's more realistic. You can tell those are mountains. The person who painted this in a realistic fashion, almost like what you might see if you took a photo of it. Alma's art does not look like a photo. It is abstract, so it represents something else. So her art and the way she paints, which I think is so cool and so neat, it actually represents something else. So this painting are mountains, but she did it in a not realistic way, but we can still sort of tell what it is, and that is abstract art. Let's talk more about Alma. She was the first African American woman artist to have a solo art exhibit at the New York's Whitney Museum of American Art. Her art is so well loved that she even had a painting, and this is it. And this painting, the name of this painting is Resurrection. And this painting became famous. She painted this in 1966. But this painting became famous recently because President Obama and the First Lady Michelle Obama hung this painting in their family dining room. So it gained a lot of attention when the president really liked this painting and hung it in his home and talked about it. I love the fact that Alma lived in Washington, D.C. She was actually born in Georgia, but she lived most of her life and died in Washington, D.C. And she was a teacher. Whoop, whoop. Holla to all the teachers out there. She was a teacher, which I also love because I love teachers, and for most of her life. And then she retired from teaching and became an artist, and a famous artist at that. And let me show you some of her paintings. They're very unique, and what really stands out about her artwork, there's a picture of her right there. There's that painting that President Obama had hanging in the White House. That was called Resurrection. She loved color, as do I. And she colored in patterns. And we've talked a little bit about patterns, right? And she sort of had these dab, okay, enter a dab here. Her technique has been described as sort of dabbing paint in a pattern. In here, she has a circular pattern. This was a very kind of a pattern that she used to do a lot. One of her quotes that I love is, "Color is life, and light is the mother of color." And you can see that she didn't choose to paint in drab colors. She painted bright, happy, beautiful colors. There's that famous painting again named Resurrection. She painted that in the 1960s. That was long before you were born and a little bit before I was born. This is that abstract representation of a mountain. And she named several paintings after the Apollo space shuttle. Now, Apollo were missions to the moon, and Alma really loved space. And so a lot of the subjects of her paintings have to do with astronauts and the space. And she loved what they call celestial patterns. And that basically just means the stars and the planets. Here's another one of Alma's paintings, and this is similar to what we're going to do today. This is called A Fantastic Sunset. And you can see she painted a large circle in beautiful, bright, vibrant red, and then made these patterns with her paintbrush all around, circling it. And it sort of looks like a mosaic, if you know what a mosaic is. This is another painting of Alma's, and this was called Eclipse. Do you know what an eclipse is? A solar eclipse occurs when a portion of the Earth is engulfed in a shadow cast by the moon, blocking sunlight. So this is an abstract representation of what an eclipse looks like. And here again, we see this sort of mode of painting where she would make a big circle, and that's supposed to be the eclipse, and then these patterns. It almost looks like ripped paper. This painting I love, and it's titled Spring in Washington. And that's where we live. We live in Washington, and Washington is known for having beautiful springs with cherry blossoms blooming and tulips and all sorts of beautiful flowers. So this is Alma's abstract representation of spring in Washington. So beautiful. Here's the painting that I showed you before. So now let's get painting. Let's create an Alma Woodsy Thomas inspired painting of our own. And here is your example. So let's clear everything out of the way. I'm going to put these up here just so you can have that as kind of your inspiration. You're going to need a little bowl of water. This water is a little bit green because I was just painting with it. Don't worry, this is not the color Mrs. Hugh's water comes out of her faucet. Looks like something the Grinch might drink. Okay, so we're going to have our little water there because we're going to need to dab our paintbrush in it because these are watercolors. And watercolor means you add the water to the color and then you paint with it. So let's open up the top. Let's take out our paintbrush. And you're going to have your water, and you're also going to want to have a paper towel or tissue or something that you might dab your paintbrush in. Once you've used one color, you don't want to mix it with the other colors, so you'll wash your paintbrush off and then dab it on a cloth or a dish towel or something that your mom or dad gives you. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our paper, okay, and you can paint your paper this way or you can paint it that way. I'm going to let you choose. And then you're going to pick a color for your circle on your page. I am going to pick green. So I'm going to take my paintbrush, I'm going to dip it in my water, get a lot of water, and I'm going to dip it in my beautiful green paint. Okay? Now I'm going to go over to my page and I'm going to decide where on my page I'm going to put my circle. I think I'm going to put it right in the middle. There's my circle. And now I'm going to take my brush and paint the inside of the circle so that I have a solid green circle on my page. I decided to put that in the middle. You could put it up here. You could put it over here. Remember, Alma's different paintings, her circles, some are big, some are small, some are right smack dab in the middle of the page, some are on the side, so you get to decide. Okay, so now that we have our green, now you might say that green's too light. I want to make it a more vibrant hue, which is another element of art that we've talked about. It would make my green a little bit stronger. Okay, so now I have my circle, my green solid circle. I'm going to wash this paintbrush off, dry it. Okay, and I'm going to put that paintbrush back. Now I'm going to take out my paintbrush that has a tip that is very thin, but when you turn it, it's going to give us a nice, almost like a nice thick stripe. So I'm going to pick another color, and I think this time I'm going to pick this beautiful, bright yellow. I'm dipping my paintbrush in the water, and I'm getting my paintbrush covered in that yellow, and I'm going to go around my green circle, and I'm going to make little dabs of a certain length. Okay, so here I've decided to make dabs that are this length. But now I'm going to go back in, pick another color, wash my paintbrush off, and I'm going to pick pink this time. And I'm going to do dabs that are a little bit longer. Dab, 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 all along. And if it helps, you can turn your page. You can turn your page. And these dabs are a little bit longer than the ones I did before, although you can do them the exact same size the whole entire time, but it's kind of neat to sort of change it up and do another length. So some dabs could be shorter, some dabs could be longer, and you see that Alma does that here. She has shorter dabs and then longer. We're just dabbing all over the place today, aren't we? Okay, now we're going to pick another color. This is what makes every artist different, because we get to choose what colors, what patterns. I'm going to choose blue now, And I'm going to do little short dabs all the way around my painting. Right around that edge, close to the longer pink dabs that I just did. Are you getting the hang of it? Are you sort of getting the idea? There we go. Now, again, we're going to pick another color. And you know what? I think I'm going to go back and do another yellow. Oopsie, see what I did there? Tiss, tiss, tiss. Mrs. Huke, go to the principal's office. I took my one color and I didn't wash it off well enough, and so it got a little bit in my yellow. And that's okay. When that happens, you just take a tissue or a paper towel and you just go in and dab that so you get that other color off, just so that your color is the color that you want it to be. All right, I'm going to go in with my yellow and I'm going to go around and make more dabs. Art makes you feel good. It makes you feel good to create. And when you do these projects with me, I want you to feel good. If you feel frustrated at any point, you can stop, or you can start again. You can pause, take a break, and come back to it. But I want you to understand that the reason why I teach is to inspire you and to make you happy and discover the joys of art, and it's not to frustrate you. So if I'm doing anything that feels a little frustrating, then you just let me know, or take a little bit of break, or take a deep breath and say, it's just painting. We're just creating, and nothing needs to be perfect. Art is not perfect, just like people aren't perfect. And if art were perfect all the time, we probably wouldn't like it as much. So now I'm going to be taking my paintbrush and I'm making longer dabs. And look what's happening. I'm getting closer to the edge of my paper. What happens then, Mrs. Huke? I'll tell you, self. Let's finish this green ring, okay? Are my dabs all perfectly, exactly all the same size? No, they're not. No, they're not. And neither were Alma Woodsy Thomas's. So if you see here, what happens when you get to the edge of the paper? You just skip that portion and go back. You're going to be filling up your whole entire page. So let me show you. Here we see we're over at that edge. So what I'm going to do now with my dabs, I'm going to keep on dabbing, is I'm just going to go over and start. So the idea is it really goes off the page, but we don't see where it goes. Right? So like over here, I'm not going to worry that my lines are running in. They're just going to go off the page. Okay? And so for here on this side, see, it's like the dabs disappeared, and now they're going to pick back up again. Okay? So you're going to keep going just like this till your whole paper is filled. And when you're done, it's going to look so cool, and you're going to feel like you have a little piece of Alma Woodsy Thomas in you creatively, and I think she would have loved that because she loved teaching, and that means she loved students, and you're a student. So she'd be really proud to know that you looked at her art and felt inspired by it and created something very similar. So here I go. I'm almost done with mine. I think I'll introduce red now, and I'm almost done. And this is also a great exercise in just having control over our paintbrush. This is the very first time that we're painting together, and usually if we were in school, I would kind of give you a chance to play around with the brush to get the feel of it. but we're jumping into a project here. So give yourself a little bit of a break on that too, because it is sort of hard to figure out how to hold your paintbrush and feeling more confident with it. Okay, my page is full of my dabs. Alma, Mrs. Hugh, I can't wait to see what you did. And the big lesson I want you to take away from this project that we just did and what Alma Woodsy Thomas would want us to remember is looking for the beauty in this world of ours. She was so inspired by nature